Hello. Today we're going to talk about the cycle and how to spot whether you had an ovulation or not, and why is it so important. So, like we, um, as women, maybe are not as much told about our cycle and to pay too much attention to it. And I find that this is the biggest mistake because we really should, because our cycle, not for everybody, but for, I would say, 99% of us, it really impacts the way that we feel, the way that we can train, the way that we can handle the stress, and then also the way that we can stay strong on a diet and kind of have our willpower. Okay, so you will see throughout the course of the month, once you start paying attention to it, that honestly the first part of the cycle is so much easier to do everything, and the second part is just not, and that's completely normal. And if we are aware of this, we can definitely put in strategies that help us and not kind of we just don't go on to like, oh my god, what's going on. Okay, so let me share with you the screen, and I will share with you the so sorry, one second. I will share with you our sort of chart that we always show on the sessions. Okay, here we go. So that's a complete menstrual cycle. Beautiful, but not super correct. Why? Because here in this cycle or in this graph, we have 0 to 7th day, we have period, which is bleeding. And then from periods to ovulation, from end of bleeding to ovulation, we have proliferative phase, which basically is a part of follicular phase, which is part of the first phase of the cycle. Problem is that not every woman would have a bleeding from 0 to 7th day and then an ovulation on the day of 14. Okay, we are all different, and cycle to cycle is different. So that's why it's so important to know when exactly you're ovulating. Okay, and I'm gonna say to you why. And the reason why is because the first phase of the cycle is the phase of the cycle in which we are, in general, more energetic, less tired, more responsive to stress in a way that like we can handle more stress, we can handle dieting, and we can eat less, exercise more, and feel great. Post-ovulation, not so much, okay? Post-ovulation is the time that we start to be a bit less focused, a bit more like tired, not so motivated. It's just so much more difficult to stay on the diet. We have more cravings, we have more tiredness, so much difficult to get yourself in the gym and train. And also, it is the time in which we need a bit more extra motivation. Okay, so how do we spot that little ovulation period, and how do we spot whether we are in a first or the second phase of the cycle? First of all, okay, it all depends from women to women. What you might want to look for as a signs and symptoms on your body, you want to look for cramps, you want to look for a little pain. Sometimes there is spotting that occurs, and also sometimes there is more vaginal discharge that looks like egg white, or it has this consistency that is very, very sticky. So you want to look for all these symptoms that are your body's symptoms. From emotional perspective, some women, okay, another bodily function or symptom is some women report to me that they actually put on weight. Okay, they put on weight, or they feel more bloated, or there's something that just doesn't feel right, and it's not the cycle because it's right in the middle, maybe a bit less, more towards the end, more towards the beginning. Okay, but it's definitely not the period. That could be the ovulation. From the emotional part, what you might find that after that time, you suddenly have much less stress tolerance and much less sort of motivation to do things. Okay, if that happened, then probably the ovulation was somewhere there. We can always use tracking devices, like there is an Oura Ring that offers this. There's an application called Flow that lets you to log your period and technically calculates it based on the cycle length. But again, I would always encourage you to basically measure it yourself, or to just kind of pay attention to your own body and just see if you can spot it. Okay, that's it for today. Bye.